good to take the opportunity throughout the day, whether we're working or practicing meditation or doing some study, any kind of activity that we're doing, just to periodically reflect on the kind of universal human experience, actually the universal experience of all sentient beings, of pleasure and pain, two opposites that usually either somewhat consciously or mostly unconsciously following and responding to pleasurable or painful experiences, sometimes very noticeable and sometimes very refined or very subtle states of pleasure and pain. But usually, probably 95, 99% of our time is spent responding to those and redirecting our experience, so that we're always trying to maximize or at least move towards a pleasurable experience and trying to move away from a painful experience. This happens both physically and mentally. You can see it just in the physical body. The physical body is rarely comfortable, and always the body is just constantly in motion, adjusting, twitching, slight movements, as well as the more noticeable ways that we seek pleasure, like through bread breakfasts. There's probably a little bit of pleasure seeking going on this morning in that realm, but also just the constant readjustment, switching posture. How long do you actually sit in one posture, completely still, without even a little bit of a twitch, or a swallow of saliva, or a twitching of the eyebrows, or whatever it is? The body's constantly seeking just to be a little bit more comfortable. Pains in the back, pains in the knees, wanting to respond to those, adjust all that time. So just noticing that constant response to wanting to seek pleasure in the body, avoid pain, and in the mental realm too, especially in the mental realm. Something unpleasant occurs, somebody says a harsh word, or somebody says something you don't want to hear, or just a random thought, a memory, or a worry, a projection into the future comes. And that's unpleasant. Most of the time we don't notice the unpleasantness of it unless it's really strong, but we'll still immediately react to it because we notice it on an unconscious level. So we either try and do something to get rid of that, and oftentimes we react by, like if we hear a harsh word, we'll react in anger as well, trying to get rid of that, trying to displace that unpleasant feeling by reacting, or doing something to try and allay the anxiety, trying to think it out, worry about it, think about it over and over and over again in the vain attempt to try and get rid of the painful feeling of anxiety, so that you've got the plan. So just noticing how life is pretty much constantly moving back and forth between pleasure and pain, physically, mentally, and how exhausting that is, really. It's tiring to just keep on that same level of bouncing back and forth, back and forth. So to notice that to begin with, and then to start to recognize, when is it that we don't actually have to engage in that kind of response? Sometimes we need to adjust what we're doing based on a feeling of pleasure or pain. If we touch a hot burner, then we don't want to sit there with our finger still in the flame, contemplating, oh, well, this is painful. Should I do something about it? Your body will automatically pull away from harm. But so much of the time we spend just reacting and strategizing and suffering unnecessarily by the reaction to these states of feeling tone. So just watching the push and the pull of the mind based on feeling, tone, and that feeling is the basis for the arising of craving, the wish to experience pleasure, the wish to annihilate pain, and the wish to just not have to experience any of this. So watching the mind gives us in that way gives us a real insight into how to the beginning stages of dropping the craving mind, and so much of it depends on developing all sorts of supportive qualities. The primary one, I think, being patience, khanti. As Ajahn Sumedho describes khanti, patience being the peaceful coexistence with the unpleasant. And so it's establishing that mind that allows one to be with the unpleasant in a very gentle way, so that even though we experience the first dart of painful experience, we don't have to experience the second dart or the second arrow of resistance that causes suffering. So as the well-quoted saying goes, pain is inevitable, but suffering is optional. So to get to know our experience in that way. Leave that for this morning's reflection.